I have cracked the code on how to connect to spirit in the afterlife, and it's easier than you think. The first time spirits started coming to me and showing me themselves, I didn't believe it. I literally thought it was my imagination. But the more it happened, the more I started looking for evidence and found it wasn't my imagination at all. The biggest problem that I come across with those that are wanting to connect with spirit in the afterlife is how they don't believe what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're knowing, and what they're perceiving. They are literally skeptical about their own knowing. What if your dreams about seeing spirit and your loved ones and having a beautiful hug, having that moment, what if that is connecting in with spirit? So we need to talk about this today in this video because it's so important to be able to connect to our loved ones in spirit. Just because they no longer have a body doesn't mean that we can't communicate with them, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't communicate with them. There is so many points of views and judgments about how we shouldn't be having access to those that have passed away. Now, we've seen this a lot in religion and also seen that there's a big gap between the planetary humans and those that are in spirit. In the spiritual world, we call this the 3D and the 5D, but in the normal world, we talk about the afterlife, and we also talk about here being on planet Earth, being in a body. But the truth is, we don't have to have the gap, and the gap is a lot smaller than you think. Even though we're here on the planet and we can't see spirit, or many of us can't see spirit with our actual eyes, it's more in our third eye, they are right here with us, but they are in a different dimension. Now, if we can actually grasp this and stop just believing what we're seeing with our eyes and what we've been told from other people with our ears and go inward and say, how do I connect with spirit? What is the way that I communicate and get the evidence? Then we're able to connect in a lot quicker and easier than we could possibly imagine. So I'm going to tell you about the first big experience that got me thinking, maybe I am a medium. Maybe this isn't just for those that are born with it. Maybe we can remember our gifts as we get older, a concept that I certainly hadn't been told as I'd grown up. So here I am, picture this. I'm pregnant with my son. So we're talking 9.5 years ago here. I'm pregnant with my son, and I start seeing feathers. I start seeing butterflies everywhere. I start seeing more of the numbers all in a row, the 111s, like everywhere, so much that I was like, okay, this is getting kind of creepy. This is getting kind of weird. And then all of a sudden I would hear a name. I'd hear it like in my head, right? So not hearing it with my ears. Now, of course, some people would say this name to me, or I would read it, or I would just hear it like Emma, Emma, Emma. And I was like, what is going on? I would start seeing Emma in my head. Enma. What is going on? This is crazy. And then I would have a dream about this girl called Emma. Who was Emma? Well, Emma was a girl that used to go to my school. And I know her brother, I know her nephews, I know her mother, I know her father. This is somebody who was a little bit older than me at school, like 6 months older in a different year. But unfortunately, very sad, she passed away before her 21st birthday, or around her 21st birthday. So she was very, very young. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking about her. I'm getting these words of Emma. I'm seeing these butterflies. I'm seeing these feathers. But of course, I'm not seeing a ghost standing right in front of me. I'm not seeing a human being figure right in front of me. In fact, spirits don't have bodies. Okay. So why would we constantly see human beings standing in front of us if they don't have bodies? When they do that, that is literally them showcasing that it's them. That is evidence, right? But we're always expecting too much. We're always expecting for them to come here and be solid and start talking to us. And not many mediums see like that. And I certainly don't. Back to the story. I'm seeing the feathers. I'm seeing the synchronicities. I'm seeing the monarch butterflies. I'm hearing Emma. People are talking to me about Emmas, and then Emmas are ringing me. And then I'm seeing it in a book, and then I'm seeing it in my head. And I'm like going, okay, what the hell is this? I'm going crazy. So what I'm sharing with you here is these layers, these little pops of evidence not a spirit standing next to me, right? One day I started asking questions and I said, right, so this is what happens if you start getting signs and synchronicities, if you start feeling that there's these, what is going on? Who the hell is Emma? What is that song? Why am I singing this? You feel like you're going nuts. I sat down and I said, okay, is this actually Emma in spirit? And I get this expansive feeling, yes. I'm like, oh my goodness, my mum taught me don't dabble. Like my mum taught me, how do you know this is Emma, right? How do you know this isn't like a bad spirit that came off the streets? We all ask these questions, don't we? Because of the system and the programming that we've received. So I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to give me some evidence, girlfriend, right? So I started asking for evidence and I started getting it everywhere I went. Actually, in fact, before I started looking out for the evidence it was around about a year that she was communicating with me before I actually contacted her mum. But one day when I had enough, it had been a whole year of evidence because I thought I was going crazy. I didn't think that mediumship worked this way. What I did is I said, do you want me to talk to your mum? I'm talking out loud. I said, I've had enough. Like, what the hell? Like, what do you want from me? I was pregnant, then I'd had a baby, and I had this baby that didn't sleep, and I've got like the popping in my ears and the monarch butterflies and the feathers and the Emma, 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 and the songs and the angel songs. And like, what? So I said, you want me to talk to your mum? And I got this yes in my body. And I was like, you can give me 3 signs and I want them like now. And then I will ring your mum and I will ask her to come over. And just if she is available, I will tell her about what's been happening with this communication. And side note, I've been giving her mum presents during the year. Like I would be in a shop and there would be these little angels and I'd be like, buy me, buy that for my mum. And I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm going nuts here, man. I would like go to the doctors, I'm nuts type of energy. And then I would be like, oh my God. So I'd buy the little angel and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to give this to her mum. And another time I put a present on her doorstep and said, love Victoria, but I thought it should have said love Emma. And it was always around a birthday. It was always around an anniversary. And I was like, what is actually going on here? And the reason why I'm sharing this is I want you guys to see how I kind of put it together. I became a little bit of an investigator, a spirit investigator. And so what happened was I said, you can give me 3 signs. I am like done with this. I'm done of walking into a room and feeling like there's been a pillow fight and there's feathers everywhere. I'm done with the Emma, 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 and the angel, 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 and the please talk to my mum and this and this and this and this and this. I had no boundaries. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was I couldn't tell anyone. It was so easy to communicate with her, but my mind was a thing getting in my way. So 3 signs. You give me 3 signs and you give them to me now, and then I'll talk to your mum. Yeah, right. That can't happen, right? Well, it did. And 3 significant events happened within the next pretty much 2 hours, which led me to ringing Emma's mum and saying, hey, can you come over? Are you free? I've got something to tell you. If you can't, it doesn't matter. And she's like, oh, I'm busy. I've got something to do. I'm like, sweet as, don't worry about it. We say sweet as here in New Zealand. And she said, actually, no, I can pop over quickly. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to admit what the craziness is in my brain. I'm going to have to admit this out loud. So she comes over and I sit down and I tell her about the feathers and I tell her about the angels and I tell her about the Emmas and I tell her about all the different things that was happening. And then I gave her this little angel that I'd bought because, a whole story around the angel, but it was basically saying, buy me, buy this for my mom and da 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 da. And I gave it to her and she burst out crying and she said, this tells me everything. And she totally believed me. And I was able to give her a message from Emma. I was actually able then, because I trusted in the process so much, I was able then to stand there and go, Emma, what do you want to say to your mum? And speak to her mum. Now, here is the thing you need to know. 99% of what I said to her mum made no sense to me. I don't know what type of relationship they had. We weren't friends at school. We were acquaintances. I had no idea about anything. I just spoke from my heart. And here I am sharing this message going, what if I'm a fraud? What if I'm getting it wrong? And that's what so many people think. And that's where we get skeptical. That's where we say, I don't know if I want to say this because what if I'm wrong? What if I'm crazy? What if this is my imagination? I was able to give her mum information and help her bridge the gap between heaven and earth, if you will, or the 3D and the 5D, between the human and spirit. I was able to give her that closure that her daughter was okay and loved her and was so grateful for the incredible mum that she was. Now, Emma still comes in from time to time, and she will come in and she will actually support me. She will come through with wisdom. She'll come through and support in my magnificent mediumship program. She'll come through sometimes and help me do a coaching session. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful to have spirit so close to me. And she was the very first spirit who came to me and taught me how to connect to our loved ones in the afterlife. And then how to connect her to her loved one to help bridge the gap, which is what we call being a medium. So I'm curious, when has this happened to you? Because I know it has. If you're still watching this video, comment below, let me know, and let me know when this has happened to you. What have you experienced? Because I can tell you one thing now. People will get a hit like I did. Instead of going in to what they've been given, they look at what they're not getting. And when people come to me and they say, I want to be this type of medium and I want to do this and I want to do this, I'm like, absolutely, that's really cool. But let's look at what gifts you have. Because as I started bringing oracle cards in, as I started bringing in wands, as I started bringing in crystals and oils and entity clearing, all that type of stuff, I had like an array of tools that I used, right? Now, I learned very quickly from Emma not to rely on the tools, but to rely on myself. So the biggest source of my power, of my protection, is the belief in myself. And like I always say, you are the strongest entity in your reality. Now, I've got to tell you, when I asked Emma's mum to come over, I literally had a little baby, I had a toddler, and I said to my husband, do you mind taking the babies away into the bedroom because I need to have a chat to Emma's mum? And he said, what are you doing? What has happened? I did use her name. I didn't say Emma's mum. And he said, I can't tell you. I can't tell you what I'm doing because I don't want you to stop me. And he said, you need to tell me what's going on, Victoria. And I told him the signs and the synchronicities, and I've been given the presents to, he knew all these things. He'd been watching me. He lives with me. And I said, I've got Emma here. She's a spirit, and I've got to share the communication that she's sharing with me with her mum. And he goes, oh, why don't you just say so? That makes so much more sense. Because often I'd sit there and go, oh man, I hope she's okay. I hope the mum's okay. Or I want to buy her a present. How is she going? And she had been a client of mine. She was a hairdressing client of mine, but also she was Emma's mum, and that's how it was coming through. And my husband was like, oh, of course this makes sense. I was like, oh, phew. But I had to hold myself and my belief and not be asking people, do you think I should be doing this? Oh my God, I'm freaking out. Like, am I crazy? I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to find out. I'm going to be determined. And I was correct. The evidence was so powerful. Most people don't get to the point of the evidence. Most people cut it off because they don't believe in themselves enough. So when people are saying, I want to be this type of medium and I want to be able to see, I get that very, very often. I want to be able to see, but why is my ear always popping? I'm like, focus on your hearing. What are your indicators? There's so many different clears that we have, and I can go and I can teach you about the chakras. I can teach you about the aura. I can teach you about the different clears. But the truth is, it's about you being a sensatory being. It's about you noticing how you connect rather than trying to be something that you're not, right? Rather than trying to be the next, famous medium, why don't you come in and say, what gifts do I have? And this is why I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What are the gifts that I have? What have I experienced? So start with the evidence that you already have. And what I noticed was the words pop out at me. And I noticed that signs and synchronicities were huge. And all of a sudden, someone would ring me and their name was Emma. And I was like, that was one of the signs that I got when I said, fine, give me 3 signs and then I'll talk to your mum, challenging spirit. Someone rang me and said, hi, it's Emma here. Can I book my hair? And I was like, because I was a hairdresser at the time, I was like, sure. Oh my God, that's crazy. And then I had a couple of other big signs within a 2-hour period of time because spirit can make things happen. They don't have a body, so energetically, they can put things in place a lot in a different timeline. So you can get literally instant signs and synchronicities. It's a really big deal when you are tapping into connecting to your loved ones. And the story that I've just told you has been about me connecting into somebody else's loved one. So when we're connecting into our own, and I connect into my loved ones in spirit every single day, it's really important to understand that they are still a person. They just don't have a body. We often think that when our loved ones have passed away, or even if it's somebody that has been a significant part of your life and there was no love lost, if you will, they've passed away and maybe they hurt you, or maybe you have resentment of them passing over or whatever. We've actually got to understand that we're allowed to feel however we feel, because when someone passes away, we respect the dead and we put them on a pedestal, even if they weren't that nice to us in this lifetime. And what I say to people, because of course I work with hundreds of clients all the time, saying things to me like, this is what my father did to me, but oh, bless his heart, don't speak bad of the dead, right? Quite often the spirit will come through because they want to be like, I'm really sorry, and I don't want you to feel fucked up because of what happened, because I was an angry man, or because I wasn't there enough for you, or whatever. They don't want you to be repressed. They want you to be free. So often when we connect to our loved ones, we can feel emotion. And we can't put spirit on a pedestal and think that they're better than us because they don't have a body. I see this time and time again. Now, we can communicate with them and we can actually have the closure that we need, and this will come through in many different ways. This can come through with emotions. So a lot of us don't actually acknowledge that when we're having an emotional release and we're thinking about someone that's passed away, that we're actually going through a healing process, and they're helping us with the healing process. Now, a really good tool is to get a pen and paper. I always have a pen and paper next to my desk, especially when I'm doing readings, because often I'm streaming through my consciousness a vocabulary of energy, and it's spirit wanting to talk to me. So it could be like, I'm so sorry, please don't allow yourself to be held back by this. What do you need to go through? And maybe you need to go and get some healing from a somatic practitioner. And spirit can bring you the right guides, the right mentors. They can actually, wrap their arms around you and say, I love you, please forgive me for leaving you too soon, or I am here with you. Keep going, keep thriving. Yes, this is real. And then it's our responsibility, because it's very hard for them to come through, right? Although they're here in a different dimension, because we are all here in a different dimension, it's just a different time space, we can literally access them. And the thing that really stunts this and stops this is our mind. Oh, that wasn't real. That wasn't strong enough, because we're so used to seeing the density, and to see it is to believe it. And many of us have seen angels, and we've seen fairies, and we've seen elves, and we've seen all these different things. And then we go, oh, well, yeah, no, I didn't. It was just my imagination. Yeah. And I remember being brought up, being told it's just imagination, because I was like, there's so many coincidences. There's already so many synchronicities. I didn't know what that word was at the time, but there's so many, and it's crazy. You were just thinking about that, or you just rang me and I was just thinking about you. Like, and we were going to say the same thing. Like, what the hell? And people go, it's just a coincidence. No, it's not. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that spirit is trying to talk to you and you may see it, or you might get your pen and paper and just start writing, you know, dear granddad, are you there? And then you're like, oh, I can like nearly smell my granddad, like I've been smelling my granddad around a lot recently. So what I do is rather than just go, oh, it's just a coincidence, I'm like, I can smell my granddad. And my sister was like, I can smell granddad too. And I was like, and it was like through my clothes, I can smell granddad. That's really, really bizarre. I wonder if he has a message for us. Oh, something's going on with our auntie right now. I wonder if it's because something's going on with our auntie. He's here to support us. Granddad, is there anything you'd like to say to us? Right? This is how I do mediumship, guys. So then I'll get a pen and paper, or quite often I'll just sit there and go, what do you want to say? And I just have this like conversation in my head, nearly like it's typing out with a full stop. And then I ask a question, then another type out and a full stop, another one and a full stop. And I start getting a message through. I go with my feelings. Is it expansive? That's a yes. If it's contracted, it's like, you know what a no is. Like, are you a female or a male? You're going to get a nah for the one that's not correct, or a yes for the one that is correct. Is my name Victoria? Yes. Is my name Frank? No. We can feel the difference in our bodies. So when we're communicating with spirit, our loved ones that have passed over, we say pass over to the other side, but they're right here and we can access them if we can access the different dimensions, which means getting out of our heads. I'm really curious, how have these stories helped shape your perspective on mediumship? Just to do a bit of a recap here, we have talked about the signs and the synchronicities. We've talked about getting the evidence. We've talked about the smells and how we can use tools like pen and paper. We can use crystals for tuning in. We can literally use our mind's eye, getting out of the head, but just like, what am I seeing? What am I tasting? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? And here's the thing that I really want to share with you today. What if you could hear with your eyes? What if you could smell with your taste? What if you could see with your hearing? And when it comes to being a multi-dimensional being, and those people that are like in their head are going to go, what? You're like blowing my brain right now. But we become a multi-dimensional, multi-sensory being. So when I jump into mediumship, I have no expectations. And this is what I teach about in in Magnificent Mediumship. I'm like, come on in, let's go, let's see what you've got. Now, of course, I have different systems and procedures about getting into this and getting out of it and whatnot. But like, all in all, it's kind of basic, right? A lot of my work is around the mindset of believing that you can actually do it. So if I'm a sensory being, and I'm like, what am I seeing? I might see something that makes no sense. And I'm like, I'm smelling roses. Am I actually smelling roses? Or is it my imagination? So what if you used your greatest imagination to connect to your loved ones in spirit? What if you didn't need it to be so dense? What if it was light? What if it was expansive? What if it was magical? And what if it was like a dream? What if your dreams about seeing spirit and your loved ones, and even your imagination, visualizing, going back to a timeline and visualizing, having a beautiful hug, having that moment, what if that was connecting in with spirit? Pop your comments below. I would love to see what has resonated for you today. And the other thing, just to kind of give you another piece of evidence, is when I was a little girl, my granddad had passed away, and I loved my granddad. And this is the one that I've been smelling recently, and he's been popping up in my brain a lot, which means he's around. And my sisters have both been having the same experiences because they're both psychic mediums. We're all psychic mediums, all of us, including you. And I had this dream that my granddad was there on his rocking chair, on his lazy boy. And I ran up to him and I sat on his knee and I cuddled into him because I never saw him very often because he lived 6 hours away from us. We had a big family and we didn't travel a lot. About once a year I would see him and I was really close to him. I loved him. He was funny. He was this beautiful man and he was always in his chair because his back was pretty bad and he passed away in his early 70s, so he was quite young. So I ran up to him, I snuggled in as a little girl and I said, "Granddad, I love you and I miss you. And this is a dream. Clearly it's a dream." And he said, "Victoria, this isn't a dream. I'm here for you." And then when he had to go, when I had to like disconnect from the dream, I was like, "No, Granddad, I don't want this to end. I don't want to wake up." And he's like, "I'm with you and I love you and this is real." And I know that that dream, now that I know more about mediumship, and I've done thousands of readings and connected with so many spirits. It's crazy. I've written a whole freaking book on this. I now know that that wasn't a dream. That was really my granddad. And it makes me realize and remember that I have connected with spirit my whole life. But the significant connection that really made me realize of everything I'd experienced and everything that I experience now is real is from when Emma came through and showed me and taught me how mediumship really works. Now, the way it works for me may not work the same way for you, but it doesn't mean that you're not a medium. Now, we've got to bring positivity to this experience. We can't come in looking at what we don't have. We've got to come in with what are the skills that we do have and feel the gratitude and amplify those abilities, so then we can start strengthening the muscles of the other clairs. So this has been so amazing and so much fun bringing this video to you. I cannot wait to hear what you've learned, and make sure, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We've got so many cool videos coming your way. Come over to the Awakened Community with Victoria Bond on Facebook, and I will see you guys next time. Namaste.